Hello there, Star Wars toy fans. This is Jim, and thank you again for stopping by my YouTube channel. Today's video, as you can see, is about collector cases. So at the very end of this, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you have not subscribed already to my channel, feel free to do so. It's going to be a long one, but I will try to keep things as brief as possible. Now, I'm a big fan of collector cases because this is the way that I store my figures. And I wish I had display case or display room in my house, you know, like some guys do. They have a whole room dedicated to just their Star Wars collection. That would be absolutely wonderful. I don't have that luxury at this point. And so I keep my figures in their cases. And there's some pluses and minuses to that. The minus side is that you can't show them off. The plus side is that they don't age as fast due to sunlight. If you notice one of my earlier videos that I did on the vintage Kenner Imperial troops, or Imperial forces, the Stormtrooper, comparing to the Hasbro one, you'll notice that there's very little yellowing. And even though I played with that Stormtrooper a lot as a child, it was kept in its case. And so there's an advantage to that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and look at the different cases, the years they came out, and maybe this will inspire some of you guys to collect some on your own. This is probably the most famous, if not the second most famous, of the collector cases. I would say Darth Vader is probably the next one, and then maybe the C-3PO case from the 1970s and 80s of the vintage Kenner collector cases. Now, this is probably my favorite style because it stores easily and it holds quite a few figures. We have some neat artwork on the front that you can see, and here it says Mini Action Figure Collector Case. This is my original childhood one. Still has the sticker on the back, and in fact I still have the display card as well, which we'll get to. Has a snap there. And these tend to tear quite a bit. You'll see mine has been repaired. And I'll give you a little repair tip here at the end of this video. Open it up. And we have here our figures. And this is how I kept mine when I was a kid. And then there's the second tray. Each tray holds 12 figures. And then at the very back, we have here the card. And I kept this in a file folder as a kid, or 3-ring binder, and that's why it's creased there. But it was in a sleeve, but that's the original one from my childhood. So, and you'll see that I've repaired some with electrical tape and so forth. So the neat thing about these display cases is not only could you store figures in here, but also on the flip side, you could use it as an action figure stand. And so each of the figures had a peg, and then you could just mount them right there on the stand and display them. Or you could also use this as a platform for a ship to take off. And that's what I used to do. This was like for the Cloud Car or for the Slave One. So a really neat display case, and everything goes back together quite nicely. So we just put the tray back in, and the trays interlock. You'll see there a little recess right here, and that just fits right into the tray like so. And so it's pretty nice. Now, if you watched any of my videos, you know that I've done a lot of customizing to things. Usually they're damaged Star Wars items, and that's the only time that I customize. If something is in pretty good condition and complete, I don't mess with it. But if it's missing parts or broken, then I feel, well, it's kind of fair game. And so I have done a lot of repairs, and some I've gotten from Toy Polloi or others on the internet. This is one that I discovered when I was a kid, and that's using contact cement. And so with many of my collector cases that are on the more expensive end, that is how I've repaired them. And so these handles, by the way, are interchangeable. So if you happen upon a collector case that's like, say, a highly expensive one like the Return of the Jedi one, you can just use the same handle for that. and then you have a complete case. So this will literally adhere this snap piece back together again. Now it doesn't work so well on the hinges. I've tried that, and what I tend to do is to use electrical tape and then get to use the the case again. Now a variation on that original case is the French version, or the Canadian version, I should say, that has French on it. So you see there it is, mini action figure collector case. It's exactly identical as the one produced here in the United States in 1979, but it's got the French logo on there. And in fact, it even has well, it's got the serial number right up here, 39190, which happens to match the serial number on this one, and I'm not sure where that is, but I have looked that up. This one I got secondhand, and it's missing the sticker on the back, but otherwise it's exactly identical. Now, in 1980, two cases were produced. We have the transition case, that's what collectors call this, and it's the same artwork that you saw in the 1979 case, but it has the Empire Strikes Back logo in the middle, just like the one that you saw from the movie. Still holds 24 figures, no sticker on the back. It still has a handle and a snap up top. Works exactly the same as the other ones. The other 1980 figure case was the Darth Vader case right here. We'll bring the camera back just a bit. Now the Darth Vader case, this is one from my childhood, and it had held 31 figures. So we'll open this up and watch everybody fall out. Not too bad. And it also had a storage area for the weapons right here. And I've since kept mine in a little baggie so I don't lose any, because some of them are pretty hard to keep track of, like the Cloud Car Pilot's weapon or gear, or its communicator. But anyway, it holds 31 figures. Pretty much everything from the Empire Strikes Back fits in there. I do not have the cardboard piece that came with this, but it's a neat display case nonetheless. Now this side is totally flush and it meets with the other one. You'll notice there's a glossy finish, and I'm going to touch base on that because this was re-released in 2004, and to show you how you tell the difference between the two. The figures tend to fall out on this side when you have the sculpted face. That's just seems to be kind of a common problem with these cases. But otherwise, it's great. It holds a lot of figures. Now, in 1981, we saw the Yoda case. That's what I call it. Another vinyl case that holds 24 figures. This one was in pretty poor shape when I got it. And I had to end up doing some repairs here to the snap. But it does work pretty nicely. This one came with tan trays and also tan stickers. And you'll notice it's tan backing here. Now, this is a case that I keep my Empire Strikes Back Hasbro figures in it, since I keep my original vintage Kenner figures in the Darth Vader case. And so I end up printing my own labels. You can go to labels.com, and they have templates. You can print your own collector case labels if you so choose. But otherwise, these trays are exactly identical to those in the 1979 case. Now, what's interesting is I don't have this variation, but my brother does, and his Yoda case has red trays. So I'm not sure how that happened. Maybe Kenner had this in stock and they were transitioning to the red trays. I'm not really sure. Now, for the 1982 year, we have what I term as the Wampa case. So again, the Darth Vader case was in issue still alongside these from 1980 through 1983 when they transitioned to the C-3PO case. But here we have the same exact logo, or exact form. You have your handle, you have your snap, and this one's in really nice shape when I picked it up. No sticker on the back. Maybe it came with one, but I didn't have one when I got it. This one, however, it was pretty ripped out here, and so I just used red electrical tape to hold it together. And this has red trays in it, as you can see. Now, the problem with the red trays, okay, is that they have a tendency to leach into the red. Well, dye will leach into some of your whiter figures. So there are a couple ways you can get around this. One way is you can use bubble wrap and cut in each of the places, which I've done in my Return of the Jedi case, or you can spray a flat clear coat on this, and that's what I did with this case. It has a flat clear coat on it, so that way the dye will not leak into the figures. And it looks exactly the same as if nothing ever happened to it. This is where I keep my Hoth figures that Hasbro produced. And again, it's a nice storage case. Really, really well done, and also has some cool artwork to it. Now, 1983 was the last year for the vinyl cases. And this is the Return of the Jedi case. This is the harder one to get. This one was damaged when I got it. The snap here needed some repair. And in fact, the button was completely missing. So I had another junker 1979 case that I took the button out of and just glued it in. Has your handle, holds 24 figures. And this is where I keep my Power of the Force figures. In addition to some of the reproduction items. It looks like Barada's staff fell behind, and you can see I also keep my Mandalorian figures there. Now this one also came with the display card. It's the only other card I have, and you'll notice it's got red box, real nicely done, and then this is where I keep the bubble wrap there, so that way the dye doesn't leach into the figures. But again, this one has some real neat artwork with it, and that's something I will give Kenner credit for. They had some great artists there working for them. Now, 1983 also saw the release of the gold C-3PO case, and this is my childhood case. So I had three as a kid. I had the 1979 release, the 1980 Darth Vader, and then this one. And I remember getting this Christmas of '83. I was sophomore in high school, I think, and it was one of the last things that I got for Star Wars. And after that, I kind of was growing out of them. This one holds 40 figures, and this one holds all of my vintage Return of the Jedi figures and some of the Power of the Force ones there. So again, holds 40 figures, and then it's like Rancor Keeper lost his little helmet there. And it also has a storage area where you can hold your weapons. So what's neat about this is some of the figures will not fit in the 24 Return of the Jedi case. Like a Man won't fit, and the EV-99 is way too tall. The Gamorrean Guard is way too big, and so are the Max Rebo Band figures. They just won't fit in there. Now, if you do some research on this, there are some very rare test prototypes of the Darth Vader case in gold. And so that's kind of a cool thing. This one, of course, has shelfware. It's got some scratches and so forth. But nevertheless, it was a great case to have as a kid. The last collector case that Kenner produced was the laser rifle. And this is interesting, folks. I picked this up for $10 off of eBay. And I don't remember, shipping was really nominal. Notice how brown this is. It's like uniformly brown. Yet if you look at the latch, it's got kind of a mixed color of gray. So I'm thinking that it was originally gray and that it yellowed with age to be brown. But I've also read that there are some gray cases out, or some brown cases out there. So it's anybody's guess. But how it got so uniformly brown, other than the latches, I mean, see how that varies? Nothing else is varied like that. It's like it was almost in that color. But maybe some of you guys can leave comments if you're more knowledgeable on it. This one, but see how it's gray on the inside? So this one held 19 figures. It has a little storage area right here. And this is like the most impractical case of all of them. It will hold some larger figures, but it just, I mean, it's tough to store stuff. So I don't store any of the figures in here. It's just pretty much left as it is. But it's kind of one of the neat things to have in your collection. I do not own the bandolier case. It just never really interested me. And the bandolier really isn't a case in and of itself, because the figures can't, they're exposed. They just kind of strap in. So that was, maybe I'll add it one day if I have nothing else better to collect. So 1996 saw the re-release of the C-3PO case and some changes to it. So they added some electronics. So you press his mouth here.
I am C-3PO, human hybridization. R2D2, where are you?
And then it repeats. And it just kind of cycles through. So if we compare the faces to the two, now we have a flat finish, and there are some changes made. Of course, the mouth has a button and some electronics, and we'll open that up. Now, this one held 38 figures, but I'm actually probably less than that, probably 36. This is where I keep my Hasbro Return of the Jedi figures. And this is where the electronics are. That's where your batteries go. So if you consider that you'd have 2 figures here, 2 figures here, 2 figures here. So it's 6 short, so 34 figures. I made my own little strap here out of plastic, styrene plastic, cut it out, and then used a copper pin and basically glued it into place. And so then you melted the plastic over the top. Then just airbrushed it so it has a similar look to the others, and I can hold a man and wick it in those spots. But otherwise, it's exactly identical to the one that was produced in 1983. Now, in 1997 and 1998, Hasbro came out with the Millennium Falcon case, which again is about as impractical as the laser rifle that came out in 1984. The 1997 release included Wedge Antilles in a buff, muscular sculpt, and then 1998 came out with the Imperial Scanning Crew member. So we'll open it up. Holds 18 figures, 9 on each half, and there you go. This is where I hold my larger Return of the Jedi figures. Now, my daughter, when she was younger, pulled open one of these and totally ripped the peg off. And because it was damaged, I decided that I would modify it so that way it could hold Muftak. Because those of you that have that exclusive, he doesn't fit in any case. And so that ended up having to cut that completely out. And here, we'll just pull this out so you guys can take a closer look at what I did. And so I just completely cut that out, sanded it all out, so that way it's looks as if nothing ever happened. And then now he has a place to be stored. But it's a nice case. It's just really kind of tough to do it, tough to store, because it doesn't sit up on its own. Has the 2 latches right there. Of course, this is where the hinges are. And I even tried flattening that out to get it to stand, and it's still to no avail. So anyway, good luck with that. Maybe you guys have some better options as to how that would properly stand. The last collector case that I have in my collection is the 2004 re-release of the Darth Vader case. And there are a couple main differences between this one and the 1980 version. So let's take a look at the back. Okay, First off, and I'm going to pull this out of the strap there, you'll notice that this is a flat finish, okay? So see the transition line there? You'll see it goes from gloss to flat. Whereas with the 1980 version, it's completely glossy. Now the other way to tell is the copyright stamp. So this case, I end up keeping my Star Wars from the movie Star Wars figures in here, and right where Uncle Owen is, and hopefully this will pan out right. We can turn the camera here. You'll see that it says 2004 Lucasfilm. Okay, so that's a pretty good indicator of what year this was produced. So two main differences from the 1980 and the 2004 versions. Well, this pretty much concludes my video for on the collector cases. There are two others that I know of that I do not have in my collector case. One is an R2-D2 case that goes along with episode 1. I believe it was produced in 1999, and it doesn't hold very many figures. One half of R2-D2 can be used. Then there is a kind of a square, large plastic Darth Vader case that seems to go for an astronomical amount, and that one also doesn't hold that many figures. So I haven't really been inspired to purchase any of those. Well, nonetheless, I hope you found this video useful, and knowing how to compare the different collector cases where there are some variations, knowing how to repair them as well. So again, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe, and we'll see you another time. Take care.